anybody else in the room, so it's time to get going. I'm Rob Grimshaw, I'm the CEO of TES, and we're going to talk about how TES is using professional collaboration tools and talent services in order to help schools and teachers all over the world, and in the process create a really exciting, fast-growing business in the education sector. So for those of you who don't know us, here's our financial credentials. We are quite a big company, 600 of us, and we make money, 175 million of turnover, 55 million of EBITDA in our last financial year. And our mission as an organization is to make the space to teach, to liberate teachers. When you speak to teachers, you speak to school leaders, you get the same message back. They all came into education because they want to inspire kids. They want to be in the classroom shaping young minds. But when they get into the sector, what they find is there's a whole bunch of stuff that gets in the way of that. And what we're trying to do as an organization is to clear some of those things out of the road so that teachers can do the thing that they really love, inspiring the next generation. And that's what TES is all about. And we're in a position to do it because we've got scale, right? There are 8.3 million teachers all over the world who use our platform, 30,000 more added every week. Almost 1 billion downloads now from our lesson plan library, which is a remarkable property I'll talk about a little bit more later. And we are the #1 place for schools to come and recruit teachers in the UK and increasingly around the world. And we help this community through professional collaboration and talent services. What do I mean by professional collaboration? Well, what I mean by that is that TES is a space online where teachers all over the world can come and connect with their peers and share expertise, and through that process become better teachers in their own right and help improve the standard of education in classrooms all over the world. And what are they doing? They're sharing lesson plans, they're sharing insights and information through our community forums and our news. They're engaging in professional development, teacher training, all sorts of things on that platform. And because so many teachers come to us in such huge numbers, we are the perfect place for schools to recruit teachers. And that's why we have a fantastic talent business. Schools know that we are the place where the best teachers will always be found. And what does it look like? Well, as you would expect from a digital proposition, we're offering the teachers who use the platform a fundamentally social networked proposition. We're drawing content from all the different areas of our proposition into personalized streams which reflect the interests of the individual teacher that's using the platform, the people they're following, the content they're interested in. And it's a rich, engaging experience for the teachers when they come and dip into the platform, which they do a lot. 80% of teachers in the UK come to TES at least once a week for something. Now, let's talk in more detail about some of the things that we are doing to help liberate teachers. The first thing I really want to focus on is lesson planning. Lesson planning is an enormous overhead for the whole profession, right? Teachers are delivering 4 or 5 lessons a day, 5 days a week, 40 weeks a year. Teachers in the US this year will prepare and deliver 4 billion lessons. Teachers in the UK will deliver 500 million lessons. This is a huge challenge for the entire profession, and it's one of the biggest sources of workplace stress, the thing that we hear teachers talking about so much. When we were looking around for something that we could do for our community that would be meaningful, this was the single biggest thing that we thought we could address that would make a difference to the teachers who use TES. So what have we done? Well, we've created something a bit special. It's a gigantic global teacher-to-teacher marketplace for free and paid lesson plans. And since 2008, when we set it up, it's grown to huge scale, 50,000 authors who've created over 1 million resources, downloaded up to 1 million times a day at peak times during term, from teachers in 168 countries who in turn are leaving hundreds of thousands of reviews to help their peers understand where to find the best resources. And now we're in the process of turning this into an environment which looks a little like the App Store, because in addition to free resources, we also have paid, which have been there since 2015. So just like you'd find on Apple or on Google, there's a huge mix of both free and paid resources. It's up to the individual authors whether they put a price on their resource. It's up to the downloaders what suits them best in terms of what's going to work in their classroom. The paid side of the business is something we're very excited about, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. But first, I think we should talk about the resources from a teacher's eye point of view. Meet Ray Rogers. He's an ordinary teacher from a school in the East End of London. Ray, when he came into teaching, faced a big challenge. The class that he took over had a number of dyslexic kids, and he felt that he was letting them down. He just couldn't get through to them, didn't have the tools and techniques to deliver a really effective education for them. Now, Ray's not a shirker. He doesn't quail in the face of a challenge, right? He went away, he trained some more. He did a postgraduate diploma in dyslexia, and he took the knowledge that he'd learned from that to build a new set of lesson plans and teaching tools, which he tested himself in the classroom, and it immediately improved the academic performance of those dyslexic kids. Now, Ray felt there might be other teachers in the world who were facing the same challenge, so he shared some of those resources on TES, and look what's happened. It turns out there were 100,000 plus teachers around the world who are facing the same challenge, and they've downloaded his resources over 2.8 million times now. They've been used in 166 countries around the world. There's an incredible story of how one individual teacher has impacted the education of kids all over the planet, but it's just one of thousands of similar stories about teachers who are sharing their expertise on TES. And this is having a huge impact on education all over the world, and we're very, very proud of that. Now, Ray is one of the teachers who jumped in and started putting paid resources onto the platform, and why not? He spent a lot of time creating these things, and it's nice to get some reward back. Ray would tell you that the thing that probably makes him feel best is the fact that the resources are being used all over the world, but if you can also get paid for it, well, hey, why not? Now, we've only been going on the paid part of the marketplace for 2 years, so it's still kind of early days at the moment, but we see really encouraging signs that this is going to be a big business for us in the future. One of those signs is repeat purchase behavior. It's really key in the development of marketplaces. Now, what this graph is showing here is an individual cohort of teachers who first bought a product on TES in July 2015. And then the line shows their repeat purchase behavior month by month afterwards, right through to March of this year. And in March of this year, almost 25% of that cohort that first bought a resource in July 2015 came back and purchased again. And you know what? It's not just the July 15 cohort, it's also all the other cohorts since. So if we draw in all the other lines, what you can see is that every cohort, August, September, October, November, December, they're all showing the same pattern of increased propensity to come back and buy again on the platform once they've bought for the first time. In fact, 57% of teachers that have purchased on the platform have come back to repeat. Now, that's one of the reasons why we're very excited about this, and we think this is going to turn into a huge business for us over time. Now, of course, we're going to try and grow that, but we also want to explore. There's a whole bunch of other things that we think we can do with this incredible resource. This is like the ultimate lesson plan library. There must be more that we can do for the world with this incredible thing. Now, one of the things that we're looking at exploring is what we can do with curation on the platform. And we see an arc of development for the platform, which has two major strands to it. One is curation, and the other is validation, with a process of evolution going on in parallel in both those strands. Now, where we've been historically is around creating, in the curation strand, detailed taxonomies so teachers could easily find what they need. And then we've been working on validation through the crowd, getting teachers to leave a lot of reviews so that their peers would know where to find the best stuff. Now, over the past year, we've been evolving that much more, so we're creating curated collections, bringing together together interesting groups of resources into single packages, partly by giving teacher authors the tools to do that themselves. And we've been using subject matter experts, both in-house and externally, in order to understand, well, what are the best and most complementary resources, what will create a coherent package. But what we're really interested in is the step that comes potentially beyond that, when we start to create something that might look like a piece of courseware that stretches from one end of the other to a whole curriculum, and that's validated by external authorities who are acknowledged experts in that particular area. Now, what does that look like? Well, if you imagine a sea of resources on the TES platform, increasingly we know which ones are the best. We can see it because of the download behavior, because of the reviews, etc. And what we're starting to do, and we've got pilot activity going on with this right now, is to create spines, curriculum spines, which we can then use to bring the best resources together into a coherent sequence that follows the curriculum step by step by step. And this isn't fancy because we're working on it right now. In fact, the team have just created, together with an organization called the National Center for Excellence in Teaching Mathematics, a full 6-year curriculum for the junior school years in the UK. So this is the whole of Key Stage 1 and 2 in primary in the UK. And we're just at the point where we're going to take it out and test it with schools. And what the schools are going to get is this full 6-year curriculum, which is attached to a spine created by experts and authorities in this topic, and backed up by professional development materials that helps teachers understand how to deliver each step of the curriculum, and then populated with an enormous collection of resources which have all been validated as being high quality, and we know have been road tested in the classroom. Now this is pretty exciting, a piece of courseware collected, created from a collection of resources put together by individual teachers all over the world, and drawn into this single collection. It's a potentially revolutionary way of creating and distributing content for the classroom, and we're very excited to explore where this goes over the next couple of years. Now, we don't just want to help teachers, we also want to help school leaders. And when you talk to school leaders, one of the key things that's on their mind is talent. Can I find the teachers that I need? And you know what? The process of recruiting teachers is not nearly as good as it could be. I don't know how it works in every single market in the world, but I certainly know that in the UK, it's not as good as it should be, and in many other countries as well. Now, we need to be interested in doing this, partly because we want to be close to school leaders, partly because we've got a long heritage as one of the main channels for recruiting teachers in the UK. And we've been working now for the past year or so on really changing what we do around recruitment. The first thing we've done is change our whole approach to pricing. We've swept away transactional advertising and replaced it with a subscription approach where schools pay a single price to buy into our service for a whole year. And for that, they get a complete flexibility, posting as many jobs as they want to, as many repeats as they want to, and our team of account managers help them get the best response from our audience. And if something's wrong, we help them fix it. And ultimately, we're interested in getting them the teacher they need in the classroom. What we've also been working on is complementing that with a really effective, slick product for supporting the recruitment process. And all of that comes together in something we call the School Portal, which is a collection of online tools which together represent an end-to-end recruitment workflow that supports every aspect of the teacher hiring process. And this is including things, self-service tools, campaign tracking tools, online application forms, application tracking systems, all of this coming together so that the school leader can actually focus on the applications coming out at the end of the pipeline rather than any pain involved in the actual process itself. We feel strongly that this is delivering enormous improvement in the experience of school leaders and schools in the hiring process in the UK. We know that partly because having rolled this out only about a year ago, we're already at the point where over 27% of secondary schools in the UK, you would know that as high schools, right, have signed up to use the service. And the feedback that we're getting is great. But we're not done yet because there's more to fix about the recruitment process. And that's because there are many channels that schools use to recruit teachers, and some of them are not as effective as others. We have a advertising-driven process for recruiting teachers, and we're proud to say that it's one of the most cost-efficient channels that are out there. But if you look at the UK market for recruiting teachers, schools are spending about $256 million a year on hiring teachers. Only 35% of that is going towards advertising-driven hiring routes. The other 65% is going to recruitment agencies, and guess what? We think they are not delivering the quality and the efficiency of service that they should. Because when you look at the split, not in terms of revenue, but in terms of posts filled, advertising agencies are taking 65% of the spend, but only filling 25% of the posts, whereas the advertising channel is taking 35% and filling 75%. Now, we think that we can do it better, right? And we're going to do it better by developing a disruptive product which allows us to go after the recruitment agency segment. It's rooted in one of the product improvements we've already made. I mentioned earlier that we have online application forms now. And every time a teacher fills out an online application form, the data from that is saved back to their profile. And if they want, if they give us permission, we'll add their details to our talent bank. And because we have so many teachers applying for so many jobs on the platform, that means that we're rapidly building up a very deep, rich talent bank. It's going to become one of the biggest, richest teacher talent banks in the world. And we're going to use that as the foundation for a product which offers schools a very different style of managed teacher recruitment. We call it Talent Match, and we are piloting it with schools right now. And what we're aiming for is a win-win, where schools get much better value, a much lower price point for this service, and at the same time, we get the opportunity to attack this big market for recruiting teachers through agencies. Now, we also feel that TES has many other opportunities in the future. If you look at what we do as an organization, we have a number of market-leading propositions, jobs, resources, community, news, all of these drawing in teachers in enormous numbers. 30,000 every week signing up and joining a community with 8 million of their peers around the world. And we're working very hard to get to know these teachers much better. Partly through the online application forms, but also through many other different channels. And that creates a unique asset, a database of teacher relationships drawn from all over the world. And that, in turn, is the engine that powers all the different parts of our business at TES. And as well as powering what we already do, of course, this has the potential to power other styles of business in the future. That's the reason why, for example, we've got the opportunity to go out after the recruitment agency sector with our talent search ideas. And we're also focused on other opportunities. Teacher training, for example, is one where we feel that we could have a big and exciting business. In fact, after only 2 years in the teacher training marketplace, we are the 7th biggest entity for teacher training in the UK, graduating hundreds of newly qualified teachers into the UK system. UNESCO estimate that in order to meet the demand for education around the world, particularly from developing countries, over the coming decade, the world will need to train and recruit 69 million more teachers over that period of time. That's only 1 million less than the total population of teachers in the world right now. That's a huge undertaking. Our bet at TES is that traditional methods of training teachers are not going to be up to it, and the world will need some new, improved and disruptive approaches to training teachers, such as the blended learning approach, which we use at TES for our teacher training courses. So, many, many exciting things for us to go after. As this is an education event, I feel it's entirely appropriate to borrow a little bit from Carol Dweck and say that growth is very much our mindset at TES. And it's our mindset because we can see the opportunities. We've created this professional collaboration platform, which is clearly doing fantastic things for teachers and schools all over the world. We know that because they come and use it in such vast numbers. And we plan to continue adding tools, adding features to this platform on an ongoing basis so we can do more for our community. And as we do that, it'll provide more fuel for our talent business as we try and expand that, both in terms of the range of the services that it offers to schools and in terms of its geographic reach. And because of all that, I think that TES is a business which has a very bright future, a fast-growing digital future in the education sector. So I'll stop there. Thank you all. There's even 4 minutes for questions. That's pretty good. Assuming there are any questions, you can ask anything. So.
For the teachers that create content, how does that translate from country to country or region to region? Obviously, the example you provided showed a teacher selling in 166 countries. It's interesting, and obviously dyslexia knows no borders.
Indeed.
Do you find that with a lot of the teachers able to sell in different?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, there are definitely some subjects that travel better than others. You know, I mean, mathematics is mathematics kind of anywhere in the world, as it were. But we see across all of the topics that are supported on the platform, I mean, we cover pretty much every subject that's taught in schools, that teachers from various parts of the world are more than happy to look at materials from other countries and to pick out the good ideas. And what we've worked on very hard for the past few years is really improving the taxonomy. So increasingly, resources are tagged not just to the curriculums in their own country, but also to curriculums in other countries, and we can map across. And that's helping drive that process of sharing across borders, but it was there anyway.
What is TES's U.S. focus or U.S. charter?
So we have many teachers that use the platform in the US. Actually over 1 million teachers in the US are registered to use the platform. And we have actually over the past few years acquired a couple of US businesses. So a business called Wikispaces, a business called Blend Spaces, which we now have bought into the main platform. Now we spent a lot of time integrating the databases and things from those businesses and bringing the Blend Space tools in to create a sort of seamless proposition, which is now all available on TES.com. And hundreds of thousands of US teachers are coming to the TES platform to do the same thing as their colleagues all over the rest of the world. And, you know, whether that's sharing lesson plans, buying, selling lesson plans, etc. We have a focus, certainly an ambition to develop the US market over time. Actually, the market we're most focused on at the moment is Australia and developing that. But, you know, US is big on our list, and we'll be doing a lot here.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Was curious of what you think about teacher monetization. You know, I think in the U.S. it's been studied that, like, on average, $500 is spent out of pocket by an individual teacher on instructional materials. How do you see that kind of playing in going forward? Is that how people are funding content on your platform today? And do you see that translating into school purchasing more materials?
It actually, to some extent, already does translate into school purchasing. I mean, we know that there are a lot of teachers using the platform who are effectively spending on the school credit card. And we're working on ways to actually create school accounts and things so that schools can purchase on behalf of their teachers. We see a lot of heads of department and things who are clearly buying on behalf of their staff in departments. Now, for individual teachers, we leave the choice down to them. It's completely open on the platform, and if they feel late on a Sunday night that the smart thing to do is to download a resource for $3 that saves them another couple of hours of preparation, then I think that's probably a good trade, right? So. Any other questions in the 15 seconds we have left? That would be like a really short one. Michelle.
Rob, I'm wondering what you think about the opportunity around badging, if any?
I think that there absolutely is an opportunity around badging. I mean, one of the things that, to be honest, we don't do well enough at the moment is to sort of manifest the activity that teachers have done sharing lesson plans on the talent side of our business. I think that if a teacher has created a resource which has been downloaded 2 million times in 160 countries, then a school that's looking at recruiting should be fundamentally interested in that. I mean, that's really important. And we don't have good enough mechanisms at the moment to bring that through, but the way that we want to do it is through badging. And we're in the process of kind of developing that and also figuring out how we can make that an open scheme. So for example, we've been working with third parties as an organization in the UK called Teach First that bring teachers from great universities into the teaching profession, and we just created a scheme with them where Teach First alumni can badge themselves on the platform, and teachers who are looking for resources created by Teach First alumni can track them down through that badging. Lots more I could say about that, but we're now kind of over time, so I probably better stop or I'll be evicted from the stage. Thank you all. Thank you.